I'm going to give you the rankings chapter by chapter here because I've been doing it with every episode, and I would feel, I don't know, I guess like I was cheating you if I didn't. With chapter 1, titled The Outpost, I really enjoyed this start to the book. It's really enticing. It gets me excited for the rest of the book because we immediately connect with the wizarding world. And unlike Harry's previous 2 summers, where he didn't really get any fun from the wizarding world, he actually gets to receive some letters from his friends on his birthday. So it's cool to see that the wizarding world is becoming more and more just a part of Harry's life. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really strong start to the book. And chapter 2, I scored even higher. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's titled Aunt Marge's Big Mistake. And if you remember Aunt Marge, you know that she's just horrible, and Harry blows her up, much to our satisfaction. Unlike the previous book where when Harry gets in trouble with the Dursleys, he's having to kind of cower and beg them for some kind of cooperation. In this book, he's really becoming a teenager and he's starting to become stronger. And so he blows up his aunt intentionally, and then he stands up for himself and really doesn't allow himself to be as bullied as he's been in the previous books. Chapter 3, titled The Night Bus, is a perfect chapter in my opinion. It's too iconic to leave out for the final head-to-head chapter finale, so I've awarded it a 10. I know that the movie is influencing this a little bit for me because I think it's a spectacular scene in the movie. I still think it's quite exciting in the book as well, though, so I'm giving it a 10. Chapter 4, The Leaky Cauldron, is the chapter where Harry arrives at the Leaky Cauldron, and the Leaky Cauldron is that bar that's right outside Diagon Alley. So I awarded this chapter an 8, and it's at this point where we begin this long series of 8s in the book. For this one in particular, it's just fun to be near Diagon Alley, and it really excites me because it reminds me of backpacking through Europe and staying at hostels, like to be on the second floor of this pub off of this magical, fun street corner with all of these shops and toys and people. It just, and of course he's just packed his bags and left. Like, it just feels like he's backpacking through Europe, which he kind of is, only it's magical. So it's just a fun chapter. I like spending a night at this bar in. We meet Fudge, and Fudge at this point, he isn't the curmudgeon that he is in books 4 and 5, where he really starts to play this antagonistic role against Harry. At this point, he's still like, kind of like, Harry, you old troublemaker. Don't worry about doing underage magic. We'll let it go. Don't worry about it. That leads into chapter 5, titled The Dementor, where, having met up with Ron and Hermione, we get on the Hogwarts Express, find a compartment with Lupin, who is sleeping, and have our first encounter with the Dementor. I gave this chapter an 8. It's a really great chapter, really intense chapter, keeps the things moving along. And in chapter 6, titled Talons and Tea Leaves, we have class with Professor Trelawney. And Professor Trelawney is really strange. She's a seer, and we see the Grim, that beastly dog in Harry's teacup. And although Trelawney is a bit of a nutcase, or not even a nutcase, but just kind of a so-so teacher, or a so-so predictor. In this case, she is kind of right, because Harry did see a dog back in the Night Bus chapter, and we know later, of course, that he sees the Grim during a Quidditch match. And so this whole prediction that he's going to die is pretty true. Even if it's not in this book, all of these signals are fun to read for what they mean in the grander scheme of things of Harry's life. I think it's an enjoyable chapter, and it's cool to see Hermione take issue with the teacher as well. It makes sense that she wouldn't like divination. So that chapter I awarded an 8. Again, we're going to have a lot of 8s here in a row. Chapter 7 is an 8 as well. This one's the Bogart in the Wardrobe. A lot of you would probably rank this one higher. This is another one that gets boosted, I think, by the movie. It's one of the most memorable scenes from the movie, and it just kind of blends in more in the book. It's quite enjoyable as well in the book, but amongst the fray, again, every chapter is just kind of iconic in this book, so it doesn't stand out for that reason. This is a chapter that maybe in another book would be a 9, but in this book it is an 8. One difference from the Bogart and the wardrobe in the book as compared to the movies is in the movies, we actually see the Bogart turn into a Dementor, where in the book, Lupin doesn't even let Harry encounter the Bogart because he's afraid it's going to turn into Lord Voldemort. And for those of you who don't remember, a Bogart is this creature that just turns into whatever your worst fear is. Chapter 8 also receives an 8. It is titled Flight of the Fat Lady. And the Fat Lady, of course, is the guardian to the Gryffindor common room. It's Halloween at this point, or near Halloween in the story. And apparently Sirius Black has made an attempt to enter the Gryffindor common room. So really important chapter. Again, just an 8 for me, just really solid. It just keeps things moving along. In chapter 9, titled Grim Defeat, I'm pretty sure this is the chapter where Harry encounters the Grim on the Quidditch pitch. Yes, it is. I have it right here. He's playing, it might be Slytherin in this match. Oh, no. It's I see Cedric Diggory here. So they're playing Hufflepuff. And basically what happens is Harry sees the Grim up in the clouds. And then again, these Dementors almost kill him. They show up at the Quidditch pitch and they start sucking his soul out, and he falls off his broom some like 30 or 50 feet and miraculously doesn't die. Cedric catches the snitch, and so Hufflepuff wins, and Harry awakes in the hospital wing. Something I want to mention as well is it's cool that we introduced Cedric Diggory a book earlier than where he appears in the movies. It makes his death in book 4 all that more impactful because we actually have some kind of bond with him. You know, we know who he is for a book before all that happens, and he's already like this gentleman. You know, he catches the snitch, but he's asking for a rematch because he feels like it was unfair because Harry had fallen off his broom. I forgot that Cedric was a seeker. He's such a different build than Harry physically that I guess for some reason I wouldn't have thought he was a seeker, but I guess he is. By the way, Hufflepuff at this point is starting to get a little more recognition. In the books, we know a lot about Gryffindor and Slytherin, and even quite a bit about Hufflepuff, even if it is in this kind of butt end of the joke. As someone who thinks they would be sorted into Ravenclaw, even though I like Gryffindor because it just seems more adventurous, there's so little Ravenclaw lore in these books. I have no idea what happens there. It kind of seems like the most boring house. So that's just unfortunate. But I do like Hufflepuff a lot. I think it's cozy. I think it's cute. I think there's a chance that the Hufflepuff students are the ones having the most fun. Hufflepuff grows on me every time I read these books. I do think it's funny that they're the butt end of the joke, by the way. I have no issue with that. I know when I hear people take issue with that, I'm just like, do you not have a sense of humor? It's funny. It's funny. I like that Hagrid's like says that that people say they're a bunch of duffers, or like these lines from the books, or even Malfoy going, imagine being sorted into Hufflepuff. I think I'd leave, I think it's funny. And I say that with no malice. I just think it's funny. Chapter 10, the Marauders map. It also receives an 8 out of me. Really exciting stuff. As you can see, each chapter just has something really exciting. The twins give Harry the Marauders map. How could you ever... I'm so glad they do, but like, could you imagine having the Marauders map and ever giving it to anyone ever? Like... It seems like such a prized possession. I can't imagine ever getting rid of it. It's great that it's in our hands now. Thanks, twins. Chapter 11, the Firebolt. Harry receives the coolest broom. He's always getting the coolest broom. He gets the Nimbus 2000, and now he's got the Firebolt. And Hermione's right. It's from Sirius, but nothing's wrong with it. Nothing's wrong with it. I love the look of shock on Ron's face when he hears that they're going to strip it down to check for jinxes. As soon as Harry gets it, it gets taken away from him, unfortunately, but still fun. By the way, the Marauders map and Firebolt, they might as well be Christmas gifts because these are happening right as it's Christmas time in the story. Chapter 12, the Patronus, is a chapter in which we meet with Lupin to discuss how we're going to handle the Dementors, as it seems Harry is having a particularly hard time with them. And in this chapter, Harry produces his first ever Patronus. It doesn't take on a full body just yet, but he gets some of that white energy out, and Harry's starting to show that he's quite a powerful wizard, considering he's only 13 and he's still so new to everything. He's clearly got a lot of gifts. I also awarded this chapter an 8. Again, we've got a streak of 11 8s here, only a couple more to go. Chapter 13, Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw. As it says here, we're playing Ravenclaw, and I believe we introduced Cho Chang as well in this book. This is just a great chapter because everything goes right for once. Harry catches the snitch, and some Dementors come for Harry, and he blasts a successful Patronus in their direction, scaring them, except we find out that they weren't Dementors, it was just Malfoy and his cronies. That was quite some Patronus, says Lupin to Harry. And Harry's like, man, the Dementors didn't affect me at all. And lying in a crumpled heap on the ground, Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, and Marcus Flint, the Slytherin team captain, were all struggling to remove long black hooded robes. Another 8 out of me. And then the final 8 out of this stretch was chapter 14, Snape's Grudge. Harry's trying to sneak out to Hogsmeade, and Snape just keeps getting in the way. He keeps running into him, and in typical Snape's fashion, he has this uncanny ability to sense when something's going on, even if he has no proof or no evidence or no idea. He somehow seems to be able to sniff his way to the heart of the matter. You know, he catches Harry near the One-Eyed Witch, which at this point we know is the entrance to the secret tunnel leading to Zonko's, which is in Hogsmeade. And even though Snape doesn't know that there's a passage there, just because he sees Harry there, he starts to inspect the One-Eyed Witch, you know? So he's got such a sense for mischievousness going on. And Harry is able to give him the slip with the Marauders map, and is able to give Neville the slip, and finally makes it to Hogsmeade. But when he comes back, he runs into Snape again, and now it's looking really suspicious, because, like, why are you here twice? And he leaves the invisibility cloak in the tunnel, but he's got the Marauders map and candies from Zonko's in his pockets. And of course, Snape asks him to empty out his pockets. God, how does he know? Well, this chapter's called Snape's Grudge because Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, who all appear on the Marauders map and tell Snape to get his big nose out of their business, are of course Snape's childhood enemies, you know? And he doesn't realize who Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs are, but we do have a moment where Snape is just really laying into Harry, telling him that his father was horrible and that he's just like him, and Harry starts to snap back at him. And if it wasn't for Lupin, who steps in at the right time to rescue Harry from that situation, things could have gotten really, really ugly. It's a really fun moment if you've read this book before, because you know that Lupin is aware of what this map is, being one of the inventors. So he handles it so smoothly, and, you know, takes the Marauders map from Snape and says, oh, this is just a practical joke from Zonko's. No dark magic or anything like that happening here. Just a gag gif left. So with that, we make it to chapter 15, titled The Quidditch Final. And this is another chapter where we get a lot of victories out of Harry. We have a sad moment out of the beginning where Hagrid informs us that Buckbeak lost the trial and that he's going to be executed. Some other things happen here as well. They have a lesson with Trelawney, but I want to get to what happens with this. Yeah, and in this chapter, we continue the interesting lore surrounding Crookshanks. This is something we don't get in the movies. Crookshanks is quite an interesting character. He's not just a cat. He's being seen doing things. And in this chapter, Harry sees Crookshanks with the big shaggy dog out on the grounds. We get some fun plot developments, and we have some tension with this Quidditch match because we have to win by a specific amount in order to win the whole cup. Morley Jordan on the mic, which is just great. We're playing Slytherin, who's playing really dirty, but even through all their dirty tricks, Malfoy and the lot, Harry just outpaces Malfoy to catch the snitch, and we win the house cup. And I'm so happy for Wood, who is in his final year at Hogwarts, and who, if he's ever going to win the house cup, has to win it this year. So really happy for Wood. I really like the scenes where this final scene, Wood is literally crying, So if there had only been a Dementor around, as a sobbing Wood passed Harry the cup. As he lifted it into the air, Harry felt he could have produced the world's best Patronus. So, man, I just love how much it means to Oliver. Chapter 16 is the low for me in this book. I awarded Professor Trelawney's prediction a 7. We get the actual prediction from Trelawney, which is important, regarding Lord Voldemort's servant rejoining him in the night, and so we know that it comes true and it's an important moment, but that's pretty much all that happens in this chapter, and it's not that interesting. So just a 7 for me. Chapter 17, on the other hand, Cat, Rat, and Dog, as well as chapter 18, Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, are kind of a part 1 and part 2, and both of these chapters I awarded a 10. It's such a great theatrical moment. I could totally see this as a stage play. It's such a Shakespearean moment of layered misunderstanding, and it's really fun to read. It's kind of comical just how the things keep interrupting each other, and they're all in some way or another stepping on each other's toes, believing that they're right and that this person's dangerous and that this person's in trouble or this person's the traitor, and in reality they're all on the same side and they all care for each other. Really, really just the highlight of this book, and I think it's the best bit of writing in the whole Harry Potter series up to this point. With books 4, 5, 6, and 7 to come, this may not hold up, but it's certainly in contention to win the bracket at the end. Chapter 19, The Servant of Lord Voldemort, is kind of a continuation of the previous 2 chapters. We find out that at this point, all of these chapters, we're in the Shrieking Shack under the Whomping Willow, and so we're still there. We find out that Ron's rat has been Peter Pettigrew, or Wormtail, as we should say. And God, what a disgusting man he is. And I award this chapter a 9. It's just really great. Chapter 20, The Dementor's Kiss, is a continuation. We're just on a roll here. Really intense things are happening. I also awarded it a 9. We make our way out of the Shrieking Shack, but now, Lupin, why did you have to turn into a werewolf now? It ruins everything. He almost kills Sirius, and in the scruffle, Wormtail gets away, and Snape regains consciousness. Everything goes wrong in this chapter, and it's titled The Dementor's Kiss because Sirius and Harry both almost die on the lake shore. if not for a mysterious fellow in the distance casting an unbelievably strong Patronus. And in chapter 21, which is the penultimate chapter titled Hermione's Secret, I also award this a 9. We discover that Hermione's been able to time travel this whole year, which is why she's been able to do so many classes at the same time. Really bold move introducing time travel. Really works for this book. It is one of the plot holes or tools that gets brought up in terms of why the whole Harry Potter series doesn't really work logically or functionally if you take into consideration these different plot tools that Rowling uses per book. But in this book, it works really well. It works really well, and it's been teased the whole time because we're seeing Hermione kind of be in two places at once, and we're not sure how she's doing it. We save Sirius's life. So one of the things I didn't mention is that Snape is really hell-bent on making sure that Sirius is going to die. His hatred for him is just on another level, and he's not willing to look past the injustice of it all. He is hell-bent on Sirius receiving this Dementor's kiss because of the suffering he went through in high school. How can any of y'all like Snape? I mean, how can you read this book and ever become a Snape apologist? It is unbelievable how awful Snape is. Dumbledore gives these very vague instructions on, 2 lives could be saved tonight, and Hermione and Harry thankfully piece it together and understand that they have to save Buckbeak and then fly Buckbeak up to the window to then save Sirius Black. They successfully do it, and Sirius rides off into the distance, and the only sad part about this is because they didn't clear his name, we aren't going to be able to stay with Sirius during the summer. And it's a bummer because it was such a sweet moment when Sirius is tentatively asking Harry if he'd like to stay with him over the summer, and for once it looks like Harry is receiving the father or the parent in his life that he never had, and he's never going to have to go back to the Dursleys. But of course, that's not what ends up happening. Snape ruins everything, and Lupin as well with his transformation. And so we're going to have to go back to the Dursleys now. Chapter 22 is the final chapter of this book. It's called Outpost again. I award it a 9. My favorite moment in this chapter is when they're on the way back in the Hogwarts Express. Sirius writes to Harry, and he sends this excited little owl to deliver the message. This really cute owl who is just hooting and twirling. Sirius gives the owl to Ron as a gift in the letter, and Ron does such a cool thing. He holds out the owl to the cat Crookshanks to sniff to see if he's any good. It's such a touching moment because throughout the whole book, Ron is at odds with Crookshanks. He thinks that he is trying to kill his rat at all times, and he's right, but in retrospect, he has so much appreciation for it because Crookshanks the whole time knew that rat was no good. He knew that rat was not a rat, but in fact a evil wizard, and was helping Sirius and the whole thing. And so it's really cool to see Ron come full circle to appreciating Hermione's cat. And it also double warms my heart because he's showing Hermione some loyalty with that gesture as well. And they are having really tense moments in this book where they're hurting each other's feelings, but there are just some really warm moments, whether it's Ron agreeing to help Hermione with Hagrid's case, or here at the end where you feel so proud of him, and it warms my heart. Harry communicates to Dumbledore that Professor Trelawney had given a prediction, and we get a very mysterious quote from Dumbledore where he says that would bring her total amount of predictions up to 2, which is cheeky because you could just read that as a slight dig at Trelawney for being like a bad seer, but it's actually way more telling because if it's not just a cheeky dig, it raises the question, what was the other prediction? right? What was the first real prediction? The one that landed her that job in the first place. So I love that little line, especially having read the series. That little line has a lot in it. So a cozy ending to the book with Hermione, Ron, and Harry, and Errol, and Crookshanks, and they're going back. We make it back to the King's Cross station, and we get to tell Vernon that we have a murderer escapee who is our godfather and likes to check in on me to see if I'm happy. And I'm really liking how more and more Harry's able to stick it to Vernon and say, you're not gonna run my life the way you've been doing it all these years. All right, guys, thank you so much for sticking with me through this long recap of what has been a remarkable book. Let's get right to the meat and potatoes of what is happening. So the 3 chapters, if you notice, the 3 chapters that are making it to the finale are Chapter 3, The Night Bus, 10 out of 10. Chapter 17, Cat, Rat, and Dog, 10 out of 10. And Chapter 18, Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, 10 out of 10. So those 3 chapters will join the 4 previous chapters of Books 1 and Book 2 into the finale for that final playoff bracket. I know that these rankings are my opinion, so I like to give you the opportunity to save a chapter that you think deserves to be in the competition for the best chapter, that you think merits a spot. The 3 honorable mentions are Chapter 7, The Boggart and the Wardrobe, Chapter 15, The Quidditch Final, and Chapter 21, Hermione's Secret. Out of those 3, if you're watching this video, you can pick which one of these 3 qualifies for the finale. So check the pinned comment below and reply to it. Just reply to it with the chapter that you think should make it to the final. With that said, the average chapter score for this book was 8.5. For context, the books are as follows. Book 1, 8.1. Book 2, 7.8. Book 3, 8.5. Let me know now what you think the best Harry Potter book is, what you think the best chapter in the series is, or at least in Book 3, and what your thoughts are going into Book 4. Are you excited about Book 4? Is it your favorite book? I think Goblet of Fire could easily be the best book just because of how much it introduces. I totally get why that book is just awesome. That's maybe the most awesome book, you know. But it's a big boy, so look forward to that book being done in 2 parts. We won't be doing Goblet of Fire in 1 episode. It's just too damn big. Book 5 probably as well. Book 6 probably as well. It may be from the rest of the way out. Those are all 2-parters because the stakes are getting bigger. There's more to talk about with each book, and they are just bigger. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you joining me for this journey. I love making these videos. I love interacting with you guys. I just love visiting this world, and I always have so much to say. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and Avada Kedavra!